How you going there? It's Brendan Doherty here from Pure Power Fitness. Today I've got a really cool video for you, just answering a question I got on email the other day. The email was from Jason, and Jason asked me, I've been lifting weights for close to 2 years, and in the last 6 months I've stopped getting results. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to make a video about this question, because I see it and I get the question asked a lot in that, after a while people start lifting weights and they're not getting any results. So the first thing to understand is when we're lifting weights, there's a lot of factors that go into exactly what determines if we're going to get results. So when most people start out on an exercise program, they typically just focus on two things, and that's sets and reps. So what I'm going to teach you guys today is there's actually 7 factors with resistance training that can affect the goals that you're trying to achieve. So to quickly run through them all, the first one is, guys, obviously you've got sets, so how many sets you're doing within that exercise and that workout. Obviously you're working with a reps parameter, so how many reps you're going to be working with. Intensity, guys, intensity is the actual weight that you're lifting, so the more weight you lift, the higher the intensity becomes. The tempo is actually how quick you move the exercise. So on a bench press, if you're going, the tempo would be how slow you're coming in, the pause at the bottom, how slow you're going up or how quick you're going up, and the pause at the top. The rest between sets, exercise selection obviously is a very important thing. And the last one that not a lot of people talk about is the strength curve. So I'll get stuck into that as well. So to quickly go over it, Jason's question, how do I start getting results that I stop seeing after the first 2 years? So the first thing, when most people start out on an exercise program, typically they use probably somewhere between two to 3 sets. So the first thing to manipulate if you stop seeing results might not necessarily be sets, but the first thing you could do is start to ramp that sets up. So somewhere between possibly 4 to 5 working sets could start to get over that plateau of results you stopped getting previously. So the next one, guys, is same thing, reps. So when most people start out on a weights training program, they typically work somewhere between probably 8 to 12 repetitions through there. So look, if you've stopped seeing results from that 8 to 12 reps through there, my next thing, guys, would be start working with maybe even a lower rep range. So 6 reps, and in those 6 reps, obviously you're wanting to lift a little bit more weight. So that's where we come down into the intensity. So this is what a lot of people sort of fall short on, is the amount of weight they're actually lifting. So realistically, if we're working anywhere between 6 to 12 reps, we want to have a percentage of what your 1 rep max is for that exercise, anywhere between 50 to 75% of what you could lift of 1 rep. So in saying that, with your intensity, if you're feeling like possibly you're falling short of 8 to 12 reps, maybe you can keep using that rep range, but bring the intensity up. So focus on lifting a little bit more weight. And a good way to check to see if you're lifting the right weight is to, say for the bench press, once again, see what you can get for a maximum of 8 reps, or let's say 12 reps. Work out the most amount of weight you can lift of 12 reps, and then plug that into what we call a 1 rep max calculator, and that will give you an estimated of what your 1 RM is. Now from there, guys, what I want you to do is then use that 1 RM and start lifting somewhere between 65 to 75% of that 1 rep max for somewhere between 8 to 12 reps. So you know you're in that right intensity level for that rep range. And what a lot of people do is they fall short and they might be working somewhere around that 50%. So they're not actually lifting as much weight as they actually should be in that exercise. The next one, guys, is tempo. And tempo is probably the most important one, and people really fall short on it. So how you read a tempo, and most people do something like this. It'll be probably 2 seconds down, so on the way down the bench press, 1, 2, there'll be no pause at the bottom, fairly quick back up, and then no pause at the top. So that's probably your standard tempo through there. So if that's the tempo you're using, I would recommend changing that tempo up a little bit. And I'll give you an example of something that's a little bit different. So let's say with this, we do 3 seconds down. So 3, 2, 1, and this applies for all exercises. At the base of the exercise, let's do a 1 second pause at the bottom. So 3, 2, 1, 1 second pause, 2 seconds up, and 0 at the bottom. So all of a sudden, the time under tension of the exercise is going to be dramatically longer because you've increased the tempo. So that 3, 1, 2, 0 is going to look something like this. 3 seconds down, 1 second pause, 2 seconds out, nothing at the top. So next thing, guys, is rest. And probably the first thing is you see a lot of people in the gym, their rest breaks are fairly strung out. You know, maybe they're training with their mate, they're just talking about what's going on over the weekend and things like that. So realistically, you know, most people probably rest somewhere around about that 2-minute mark through there. So to really change things up, halve that up. So if you're resting for 2 minutes, make sure you've got a stopwatch when you're actually in the gym and make that 60 seconds. So all of a sudden, you're not going to be as well recovered for the next set, so it's going to bring about a different response in the next exercise. Next thing, guys, is exercise selection. And this is probably where a lot of people go wrong with their exercising, is they're choosing exercises that particularly only have a single joint movement. So a perfect example of that, you know, would be a bicep curl. So only the elbow joint is moving through there. So with your exercise selection, you always want to focus on exercises that use the most amount of joints. So a perfect example would be the difference between a bicep curl and, once again, a bench press. You can see I've got 2 joints that are moving. And once again, moving forward, things like squats have 3 joints. And then if you add in maybe a squat and an overhead press, that's got 5 joints in there. So with your exercise selection, your first major exercises all should be multi-joint exercises. So your first exercise, at least your first 2 or 3 exercises in the gym, always should be a multi-joint exercise. And then towards later in your exercise workout, you can go into some single joint exercises through there. And the last thing, guys, is the strength curve. So perfect example, not a lot of people understand what the strength curve is. So if you want to think to when you're doing an exercise, and I like to pick the bicep curl, it's the easiest one to focus on. Now the bicep curl, I'm standing here with the bar, you'll notice when you're doing your bicep curl that here to here is the heaviest part of the exercise. So here and up here actually gets a lot lighter. So in that middle section, you've got a strength curve. And it would look something like this on a graph through there. Now what we can do through training and through knowledge, we can actually manipulate this strength curve through there. So the first way to manipulate a strength curve, obviously, is changing an exercise to cables. And cables are going to have a slightly different strength curve than what free weights do as well. And a few other options you've got through here is your exercise bands. So you see them with the chin-ups, you can also do them for your curls, you can put them onto your bench press and things like that. So using bands is once again going to manipulate, it's going to lengthen out the strength curve. So using bands, say a bench press, your strength curve will look something like this rather than coming up and back down. So the time under tension and the weight and the intensity that's under tension is on the exercise a lot longer. So there you have it. There you got 7 ways to manipulate your exercise to start getting better results out of the gym. If you've got any questions, feel free to email through and I'm happy to do a video blog and answer them for you. Speak to you soon.